myself, unlike the speakers before us. Yeah. So very few of you have heard of lean startups based on that quick survey. But how many of you want to start a company after you graduate? How many of you have already started a company? Wow, oh my God. Okay, I should just end my presentation here because you guys know what you're doing. So lean startup, as was introduced, as the definition was introduced, I think is really exciting because what it enables us to do is it enables us to develop really exciting products that are focused on delivering value to customers as opposed to an engineer's fetish in a very fast period of time and commercialize them. And that really poses a really fascinating opportunity for so many young people. So as you're graduating from college, of course, you're faced with a choice. Do I go work for a corporation where I can gain really interesting skills, I get my own cubicle, all sorts of perks? Or do I start my company and kind of give it a risk for a few years? Well, the good news, I think, with the lean methodology and the lean startup is that you don't need to dedicate a few years of your life to try to build a product and try to sell it and then find out that it doesn't work, because the cycle times are dramatically shortened. So this might sound absurd, but something that would take 3 years might actually take you 3 days. You just have to be extremely, extremely mindful. You have to work on extremely short learning cycles and then kick butt. So let us begin. I'll go in a little bit of description about, okay, there we are. First key aspect of lean is that we're delivering value to customers. Like I said, this is not a, hey, I have a great idea, I just want to come up with this product and then see if it sticks. Because usually, if you're trying to create a good product, it'll take you a tremendously long amount of time. It'll take you some money. It'll take you a very talented team. And you don't even know on the onset if it's going to work. So with lean, instead, what we're doing is we're focusing on trying to understand how can we provide customer value at every stage, not just the product itself, but at every stage of our company. Is our marketing providing value to our customers? Is our development team? Is our procurement? Is our distribution? Is our suppliers providing value? Is our executive team spending their time the way they should be spending it? And are they providing value? This applies in massive corporations like Toyota and others, as well as small startups, just at a slightly different level and level of complexity. But focusing on a customer is kind of like having a relationship. If you really like a girl, you're gonna have to make the first move. But ultimately, she makes the calls. She makes the decision whether you're good enough. There's no input. There is output. Okay, so, and that's what I call the chief executive customer. She's the chief executive customer of you trying to hit on her. Similarly, the customer is the decision maker in your business, not you. And that is a fundamental shift in mentality that ought to emerge. Also, if you focus on the customer at every stage of the process, and I'll talk about the process, what happens is you're aligning the organization in a horizontal way. So think about vertical kind of structures. This is marketing, this is development, this is procurement, this is whatever else. And they're working in their own little world. And as information or tasks or strategies flow into their little world, they work in their own self-interest. They are not asking a question, okay, the customer's at the end of the line, they're receiving the product. What must I do in order for the next person in line? So if this is marketing, the next person in line is development. Marketing goes talk to the customers, figure out 1,000 things to do. They give 1,000 things to do to development team. The development team looks back at them and says, are you kidding me? I have seriously, only enough effort to do 5 things. See, the marketing in that sense is not thinking really about the customer value. And also, they're probably doing a lot of things along the way that are not adding value to the customer, as we'll talk. The next thing is process. You've heard the saying, cash is king. First of all, that's false. You can make a lot of revenue from really big clients, But if you do profit and loss using allocated cost accounting system, you will find out that you're losing money on your most revenue-rich customers. So the fact that cash is king, as taught in business books, is absolutely false. Companies go under having record revenues. Process is important because in Lean, you hire people to follow the process. So if you're hiring somebody into your company, you want to make sure you give them a process and then follow this process and maintain that process. And then people ask, oh, well, where's innovation? That's kind of a big issue, if you're just giving black and white kind of task lists, that doesn't seem very exciting. When in fact, that's how innovation happens. There's a book called Medici Effect, which very clearly states that innovation out of the box happens only in the presence of a box. So when you have a process, you can actually innovate and improve the process. In order to improve the process, we have to talk about trust. And something really exciting about Lean is it is a very human-driven, psychology-driven discipline in many ways. Culture is critical, but culture is backed by policies. In the case of Southwest Airlines, profitable airline, maybe not today, but in the mid-2000s, it was the only profitable airline in the United States, while everybody else was basically going under. I mean, American Airlines just recently filed bankruptcy. Southwest Airlines was kicking butt, and the reason they were doing that, I would argue, is not because they had low variability around the target and the TQM, total quality management systems, and Kaizen and Kaizen and all of that. Some of you might be familiar with these terms. But ultimately, because they have not laid off a single batch of employees since 1960. And that is key. When you're hiring somebody for life, like they have done in Japan for the longest time, you are given a respect, and you're given a promise that if you try to change things, if you're going to try to come in and improve the process and point out faults in the current system, that you're not going to get fired. And when you're trying to change anything, anywhere, the first reaction from everybody around you is resistance. Don't do it. Status quo. Don't do it. Amazing human nature. Can be overcome, but takes a lot of effort. And companies that hire for life give you the flexibility to screw up and to improve. And only in the presence of that innovation and in the presence of the process can that happen. Another piece is continuous improvement. Oh, this is a process, by the way. I just wanted to give an example. Tomorrow I'm giving a session on user experience and user interface design. And if you think about it, how do I design user experience? Where do I start? Do I take a paper? Do I go to Photoshop? Do I talk to my customer? What do I do? You kind of don't know where to start. So I kind of going to go through this framework and methodology of building user experience for product design, be it mobile, cloud, web, whatever it is, including physical products, and retail, and so forth, in a matter of days, not weeks, months, or years. So that's a risk that all of us can take. Give it a try. Continuous improvement is something that's really lacking in companies that don't have that sense of trust, because when the employees are scared enough not to improve anything, what you have occurring is you have some sort of breakthrough, you have some sort of event, it brings you revenue, hopefully brings you profit, and then you're like, okay, this is great, things are working. And then you let things slip. The maintenance, that continuous improvement is not happening. And so you go down in your output, and your revenue, and your profit, whatever it is you're measuring. And then you got to catch up. You got to create a new product, and that's the innovation. Okay, you go up, and then you go down, and it slides down. I mean, we've seen it with Toyota. They had more recalls in the last several years than any other car manufacturer in the world. So clearly, for all the things that they've touted as continuous improvement, and which is called Kaizen in Japanese, they haven't done too well. So that should be 80% of your effort in your company. You're starting a company, create a process, hire people, and tell them 80% of your effort is dedicated to improving it. Spend 20% of the time coming up with new stuff, actually building new stuff. As Thomas Edison said, I don't remember the quote, but 5% of your effort should go to ideation. The other key element is waste reduction. And that's paramount in many ways. Think about your life. If you were to log your day by the minute and do it for a period of 1 week, I challenge you to do it. There's an application called Toggle, Toggl.com. You can check it out and it'll help you do that. You'll be, and then plot that data on a graph, you'll be amazed how much time goes to things that you don't want to be, that you don't want to become. I mean, it's okay to eat and hang out with friends, that's fine. It's important to be honest with yourself. You want to spend time doing that. But in the picture of your larger goals, you spend so much time doing things you don't need to be doing. You know, there's so much knowledge in the world, but not all knowledge is useful. Not all knowledge is required to get you from point A to point B. I'm going to Delhi, I could walk there. That's a dumb idea. I'm going to take a plane. So that's how I'm going to prioritize my activities. This is an example of a waste reduction map. It's called value stream map. My interest is not to download heavy terms, but to highlight that this is what large corporations use and startups can absolutely use. This is a credit evaluation form, and what's happening here is in red you see wasted activities. These are, waste is defined as any activity, any task that does not add value to the customer. That goes back to the first idea. So waiting for completed forms, waiting for credit card approval, walking to the printer, walking to the copier, doing the printing, and all that stuff is probably wasted activities. So you got to underline those, really think about your process really hard, and remove them, fix them. Cycle times, that's another big deal. Cycle times are very complex. There's takt time, there's Yamakasi charts, there's all sorts of stuff coming out of lean manufacturing that startups could use. But I want to talk about cycle times in the context of failure. One of the speakers said that, you know, in India, failure is not really perceived, is not taken very lightly, very easily. I don't think it's taken very easily anywhere. I don't think it's taken very easily in the US. I think we have a kind of a skewed perception of failure. We say, well, if you fail, really, the only time that you can fail is if you don't learn from your failures. Sure, that's true, but it's not good enough. It's not useful. How am I going to use that information? What am I going to do with it? How do I execute on it? So cycle times, I think, bring a really interesting perspective. They say, don't work on your product for a year, then realize that it's failing, then learn from the fact that you just failed. That's a dumb way to learn. There's two ways to learn. There's a smart way to learn and a dumb way to learn. So you look at the cycle times. Look at how you can identify trends that will tell you whether your product is going to fail, and you can try to fail early and fail fast. And you can identify those and you can learn from that fast. And those combinations of small fails as well as small wins, the things that you're doing right that are actually working, can comprise a very big learning opportunity in a much, much shorter time and allow you to pivot and adjust. Here's one example of cycle times. You go to the doctor, you check in, you wait for 73 minutes, you see doctor for 7, you drive back for 45, you wait for 20 somewhere in traffic, home, whatever it is, and then you get your prescription for 2 minutes. That's 150 minutes to complete this activity. So why did we have to wait for 73 minutes? Let's break it down. Doctor was running late on appointments, patient with emergency came into the office, blah, blah, blah. But the answer was that the patient thought that the appointment was just 1 hour earlier. So the whole schedule has shifted. So they had to wait for 73 minutes. There's a tool called 5 Whys, as you might know, developed by the Japanese under Total Quality Management Sciences. It's a very useful tool that enables us to understand what is broken and go to the root cause. So, patient thought the appointment was 1 hour earlier. Why? She was unsure of exact time. Why? No day before reminder. Why? Staff forgot to telephone number, grab the telephone number when the appointment was made. Why? The checklist of for appointments wasn't there. Why? Belief that employees should do it their way. See how beautiful it is? It ties in cycle times, wasted time, concept of waste, process, and it enables you to reverse engineer to get to that very core cultural aspect that I talked in the beginning. Employees are not hired to do what they think is, to do it their way. They are hired to improve and innovate. And you as an executive or an entrepreneur must do exactly that every living and breathing minute. So there was about 138 minutes of wasted time in this whole process. So that's 92% waste. That's just going to the doctor. Now imagine all the other things that we do day to day and what's happening behind the doors in companies. Tremendous waste. And waste is categorized in all sorts of ways in lean. These are all the lean definitions of waste and the way it can happen. I'm just gonna, for a crowd that might have studied this, I'm just gonna connect this to the concept of pull or push. I'm not gonna talk about it, but in traditional push customer relationship, we produce the product, we put it in the inventory, step 7, then we push it onto the customer and sell it to them. In lean, it's a reverse mentality, it's a pull mentality. A customer requests a product. Think you're going to, this might not be a great example, but Apple does it to a decent extent. You order an Apple product online, not in the store, and the request goes to the supplier. The parts have been assembled within, seriously, hours. Your computer is then getting shipped. There's absolutely no inventory. It is not stored for anywhere for more than just transit time. And it goes to you. So lean pool is tremendous save of time and waste. Root cause. Again, all of these things are connected. But the root cause analysis is quite fascinating. Let's try one. So there was an erosion of Washington Monument in the US. And they figured out that it was due to harsh chemicals that were used to clean the monument. Why were they using harsh chemicals? To clean up after pigeons. Why were the pigeons there? They eat spiders, and there's a lot of spiders there. Why were there spiders? They eat gnats, little bugs, and lots of gnats are at the monument. Why are they there? Because they're attracted to the light at dusk. So the solution is turn off the lights. Turn on the lights at a later time. This is a true story. This is a true story. But you see, but you really, when you go to the root cause, you really got to ask enough whys. Now, 5 whys is just a token kind of statement. But imagine we just asked 1 or 2 whys. And you can try this on a daily basis with your friends, your family. Your family says something, you're like, why? You know? Anyhow, I'm not going to pull Russell Peters on you guys. Harsh chemicals. If the problem is harsh chemicals, if we stop here, then the solution is to use non-harsh chemicals. If we stop asking here, then the solution is to shoot pigeons. There's too many pigeons. If we stop questioning, then we're going to introduce new pesticides to the environment to kill the spiders. If we ask one more time, why is this happening? We'll come to the solution. And it did work. You don't want to be asking too many whys. Of course, it's within within reason. Like in this example, you were late for work or for school. Why? Because you weren't able to get up, because you overslept, because the alarm clock didn't go off, wasn't operating normally when it was flashing. There was a power interruption that night. There was a lightning storm in the area. Hot and cold clouds in the atmosphere collided. Barometric changes took place. The jet stream causes changes to weather patterns. There are cycles on the seasons of Earth. The Earth rotates. You could probably just stop right here, yeah, and say, okay, this is a reality. It's a decent enough excuse. At least you can pull it here in India. I don't know. I never had an example of, coming to work late and saying, yeah, there was no power at night. Like, yeah, right, man. So let's start a lean company. Just a kind of a quick experiment. I will run through something that I haven't commercialized yet, but I started working on. It's called Headlamp. And it's a software application that allows companies to track how lean they are. So it enables companies to convert that which they care most about, their metrics, into strategies. And then figure out which strategies work, which strategies don't work. So what I did, it's cut off a little bit, but what I did is I focused on the customer. You know, I had a very clear idea of what I wanted the product to look like, but I told myself I'm not going to develop it. I'm not going to spend a dime. I spent the user experience design process that I'm going to be sharing tomorrow to create a product. This is just one screenshot. And I did this in Keynote, or you can do this in PowerPoint. Fully interactive, you export it as a PDF, fully clickable, you have a product. You give it to a customer, put it on an iPad, they can interact with the product. The only thing that's missing is a connection to the database and all the code, of course. But you basically have a product you can test. And what I've learned from it is I was thinking about it completely wrong. And it was really enlightening. You know, it took me 3 days to put together this Keynote. It took me probably 2 weeks to put in customers' hands and kind of observe them using the product, and then come back with new suggestions and prioritize features. So I think one thing that's really important is in Lean, you gotta have passion for entrepreneurship, but you don't want to quite follow it. So I'd recommend to not follow your passion, especially if you're an engineer or if you're very attached to your idea, because it's probably going to lead you to the wrong place. It's probably not going to work, and it is completely normal. You know, these guys who are creating companies, why they're successful? Usually because they've worked for years and years and years. And most successful companies and products are created by serial entrepreneurs. It does not happen just out of the blue. So, and they've all followed their passion and all failed. Ask all of them. But the thing is, using cycle times, how can you fail faster? How can you not fail in your entire effort? Have to fire the team, have to get a job because you run out of money, but how can you fail within 3 days and learn that this product design that I've created just doesn't work? You can do that. Systematically de-risk the business model. Now, this comes from the Lean Startup book by Eric Ries. This connects to the ideas of process, cycle time, and root cause analysis. Is your idea, the idea of Lean is that you want to constantly improve, like I was saying, continuously improve, spend 80% of your time on that, and remove the risk. See what works in the market, see when the revenues are increasing, see what customer feedback is like, and continuously remove the risks from your business model. Now, you have to be very focused on the process. You got to learn fast, that's cycle time, and you got to ask yourself why. Why? Why did this work? Why didn't this work? This is a Lean canvas. I just wanted to show to you guys as a tool, as a resource. I'm not going to dive into this, but if you Google Lean canvas, it's a fantastic resource for somebody with just an idea, even. And what you do is you figure out your customer segmentation, your problem. My problem for Headlamp was that companies didn't know which strategies or which marketing campaigns or whatever were producing enough revenue down the line, how their strategies connected to their outcomes. So my solution was to build a software that would automatically track their performance through time. It'll improve very fast. And then run experiments and learn from them, like I mentioned. And you got to eliminate waste as you do that. Remember I mentioned value stream maps, identify what is waste, what is not waste, and the things that you do, and continuously improve. This is, I suppose, an important piece as well, because most people just jump into this product phase. I know it's a bit hard to see, but this is a value triangle. You have vision, strategy, and product. And most people just jump into the product, which is what I started saying in the beginning, without looking at the vision. This is where you want to go. I want to go to Delhi. Without looking at strategy, what are the means of my transport? I'm not going to walk there. And then you get to the product. And the product roadmap is, if you're a software engineer, if you're building a mobile app, is pretty clear, usually. If you're building a physical product, you can also build prototypes from paper before you make it in steel or wood or whatever your final choice of material is, or plastic. And then what you do is once you get to the top, once you realize all these processes, you can build a minimal viable product only then. I'll admit that for Headlamp, I haven't even finished building the minimal viable product. I don't have a product that's connected to the database and coded yet. And I already have a product which I've showed to the customers on the 5th or 6th iteration, and then asked them, would you pay $15 per month for this for the next year? Will you promise me that you will do that? These are business owners or startup entrepreneurs. I had about 50 of them say yes. It's not a lot of revenue. It's enough revenue to really get the team going, put my own money in if I wanted to, or get some small equity. So that concludes Lean. But I wanted to share an opportunity with you, something that I'm working on in, actually I need this, something that I'm working on in Bangalore. It's called Startup Festival. And you know, Bangalore had this narrative of being an IT city in the 2000s. But that narrative has really worn out. It doesn't really inspire a new generation of people to either come to the city and seek opportunities, or people who already live there to be proud of their city. And I really like Bangalore. And there's a lot of entrepreneurial activity. In fact, 42% of all the new age tech, new media, mobile, cloud startups are coming out of Bangalore. So we're putting together Startup Festival on March 7th. It will feature all sorts of events. They're going to immerse you into the entrepreneurial lifestyle. So if you're interested in learning more, I urge you to come. Don't walk. Maybe take a flight or a train. Come to Bangalore on March 7th and experience everything from morning workouts to powerhouse sessions with panelists to Startup Crawl, where startups will open their offices and host all sorts of sessions like these, to Launchpad, where startups will launch their products for the first time on stage, mentor sessions, and so forth. I think, you know, this is just contributing to the ecosystem, and we'd be so happy to work with eCell to make it a joint reality here in the future as well. But if you want to learn more, and if you want to take the experiences here to Bangalore and share them with more people, please come. Thank you.